everyone, it's Kerry back with you today. Today I'm starting a new series on altering postcards or different projects that you can do with postcards. Now, I'm lucky enough to have quite a large collection of vintage and antique postcards to use, but you don't need to use them for this project. You can just use cardstock or scrapbook paper or a printable of a postcard if you want to. But anything, you can use anything to make the project. So today I'm going to use some vintage postcards. Now, sometimes when I have a vintage postcard, it'll have this wonderful script on the back, some postmarks and a stamp and that sort of thing, but the image on the front is not overly inspiring to me. So you can, of course, just pop a different image over the front of a vintage postcard, and then you're retaining the sort of vintage feel of the postcard. But I wanted to come up with some other things that I could do with the vintage postcards. So today I'll show you how I've made these. Now these are like a hidden paperclip type of thing, and you've got some imagery on one side and some imagery on the back side there, and of course you can just use it like a paperclip on the side of a journal page. Now you could put it on the top of a journal page, but I wanted to try and keep the wording on the back of these postcards orientated in the correct fashion, so you know, being able to read it when it's just popped on the side of a page. So I'm going to grab some supplies and then I'll show you how I've made them. Okay, so I've grabbed out some bits and pieces for my project. I've got a piece of scrappy old ledger paper here. Again, you don't have to use what I'm using, you can just use any paper or printables, whatever you like. I've got some brown packaging paper, I've got just some printed paper, the usual glue, scissors and bone folder, and then I've picked out some digital images that I might like to use. Now I've printed this 2 to a page so that I get some smaller images, because I don't want to cover up the whole back of the postcard paper clips with the imagery. I do want some of the vintage picture to show through, so I've printed those 2 to a page. And then these tickets, I've actually printed these 4 to a page, so they're quite small as well. These are some botanical images from Tracie Fox. These are from her birth month flowers kit. So I'll just pop these to the side and I'll select a postcard. Now I think I might use this one with the pretty script on the back. Now I don't want to fold it completely in half. I did do that first, but if you fold them completely in half, when you go to pop them on your page, it can be a little bit challenging to find the gap once these are actually held closed with a paper clip. So I found it much easier to have it so one side is shorter than the other. With this postcard, it does actually look like it's pretty much in the middle, so I'm just going to eyeball it and just fold it about there so you can see the date on this side. Use my bone folder to give that a nice crisp crease, and then I've got the address on the other side. Now if it's a really old postcard, it might start cracking along here, but because we're going to be mounting it onto some other paper, it doesn't really matter at this stage. So I quite like this double layered effect around the side where I've got this sort of grungy ledger and then this packaging paper. So I'm going to do that again, and to begin with I'm just going to take a piece of this brown packaging paper, make sure that it's going to be big enough to cover my postcard, which it clearly is. I'm just going to tear a bit of that off, bring in my glue book, and I'm just going to cover the image side of my postcard with glue stick. Then I'm going to take my brown paper. Now this has a somewhat shiny side and a matte side, so I want the matte side to be face down so that you can see that from the outside of the postcard. I'm just going to pop that down onto my postcard. Now if it gets wrinkles in, it doesn't matter. And then I'm just going to give it a good burnish down with the edge of my bone folder. Alright, so that's just covered up the inside of that image and it's given me this big tatty edge, so I'm just going to tear it down a little bit because I don't really need that much showing. And I don't mind if it comes off completely in some areas and then in other areas there's just a little bit hanging out. I just want it to sort of have that rough vintage look. Alright, so that looks alright. I might just take a bit more off on this side. Okay, so I'm going to bring in my ledger now. I've used some of this before, so I know that I basically need about 1/4 of a page for each postcard, give or take. So I'm just going to tear a piece of that out. And then I'm going to decide which side I want to have facing on the outside that I might be able to see around the edge slightly. So that one looks fine. Let's try it the other way. That looks fine too. So I'm not really fussed which way I'm going to glue it down. Now before we glue it down, we need to pop our paper clips on, which I did have. Now again, because I have folded this unevenly, I need to make sure that I allow enough space on each end of my piece of ledger. So I'm just going to lay the ledger inside my postcard, then find where it's been folded, and then just let that fold come over naturally and straighten it up. Just checking that I've got enough all the way around. Yep. So now I'm just going to pop my paper clips on, and I just want to make sure that I've got the same length on both sides, so I don't want one short side and one long side on my paper clip. So like that. That's how that's going to go in. And then I just want to make sure that I'm popping glue just on the part where the postcard is underneath. I don't want to go right to the edges of my brown paper. Pop my ledger paper in. Make sure I'm giving that a good press down around those paper clips. So once I've glued that down, now I normally set this aside to dry for a few minutes so that I can sort of really rough up the edges of this paper without worrying about whether the glue is completely dry or not. But for the purpose of the video, I'll just give it a slight sort of rough up. So that just gives it that sort of worn, rough look, and I like the fact that this number is showing here. So now you can go ahead and decorate your postcard, but I actually really like this one just the way it is. So I'm a bit reluctant to decorate it. So what I might do is I'll quickly get another one ready, and then I'll show you how I decorated it. So now I have this blank one ready to decorate, and I actually just love this how it is. It doesn't really need to be decorated if you don't want to. But I'm just going to bring in a few bits and pieces that I showed you earlier, and we'll decorate this one up a little bit. So there we go, that one is all decorated up now. I've just used some digis from our shop, and that one's from Tracie Fox. And then I've used some stamps from the Whichcraft documented stamp set just to add a bit more interest there. And I'll just show you how it clips onto a page. Now I've got this lovely journal here that was gifted to me by Nat, who is one of our design team girls. I'll leave a link to Nat's channel in the description box below. So you can see that just sits nicely on a page there, and then you could of course use it to clip other things in. So I hope that gives you an idea of something that you can do with vintage postcards that perhaps you're not 100% keen on the imagery. I've got some other ideas for altering these vintage postcards, and I look forward to sharing those with you soon. I will leave links in the description box below to the digitals that I've used today, and also to Tracie Fox's Digi and to Nat's channel. Thanks so much for joining me today. I'll see you again next time. Bye!